I'm feeling a little inspired today, so I'm coming to y'all with Furious Flowers, Seeding the Future of African American Poetry, which was given to me by my best friend after it was listed on my 5 books I want to read list posted on to this page. I want to read just some snippets from the Rita Dove, who wrote the foreword to this anthology, and she says, "This is what we, the poets, the griots, can do. Tell the stories and the stories beyond the stories. Sing the grief and the joy, the terror and the hope. Unmask the inner malice of the physical rapist, the psychological terrorist, the tyrannical bully. Address the seemingly endless permutations of viciousness and callousness using the most powerful weapons at our disposal, words. The best words in the best order. Words that will get under the skin and rattle the brain and pierce the heart. As Gwendolyn Brooks says, it is lonesome, yes, for we are the last of the loud." It's for the poets. "Nevertheless, live. Conduct your blooming in the noise and whip of the whirlwind." And then I am going to move us along a few pages in, because this book not only has poetry, but it has poetics. And for those not familiar, that is the philosophy that a poet has, the theory that a poet has ingrained in their writing. To simplify it, really, what it is that their writing produce, or that they are able to produce from in their writing, which is wonderful. I'm so happy to have it. That's what drew me to it as much as the poetry. She writes, "Additionally, poets often turn to prose to write manifestos or statements of poetics in which they attempt to define the parameters of their art and practice." She said it better than me. Shelley's A Defense of Poetry, Eliot's Tradition and the Individual Talent, and Pound's A Retrospect are some of the most off-cited examples. These statements of poetics often speak to the literary tradition, the poet's craft, and seek to locate the poem within a wider social and artistic discourse. This discourse has its own legacy amongst African American writers. I'll read that again. This discourse has its own legacy among African American writers, many of whom argued for a more embodied conception of poetics. Langston Hughes, this is my favorite essay, in his landmark essay, "The Negro Artist and the Racial Mountain," argues for the necessity of claiming blackness as both the most challenging and rewarding hurdle in the practice of being a black poet. Hughes writes, "It is the duty of the younger Negro artist, if he accepts any duties at all from outsiders, to change through the force of his art that old whispering, 'I want to be white,' hidden in the aspirations of his people to 'Why should I want to be white? I am a Negro and beautiful.'" I actually pulled up his essay, and I'll read 2 sentences from there, because this here is a rivalry, and I can't wait to post these literary rivalries. But take this in, and if you know who he's talking about, comment below. But I know who he's talking about, and I'll reveal that later. Not in this video. "One of the most promising of the young Negro poets said to me once, 'I want to be a poet, not a Negro poet,' meaning I believe I want to write like a white poet, meaning subconsciously I would like to be a white poet, meaning behind that I would like to be white." And I was sorry the young man said that, for no great poet has ever been afraid of being himself. And I doubted then that with his desire to run away spiritually from his race, this boy would ever be a great poet. That is the tea. I have so much to say. I won't keep us. I hope to do more of these sessions. I felt inspired and encouraged to do it. I hope that you are moved by any of these words, whether by myself, by the great Rita Dove, Langston Hughes, and do understand the time period from which Hughes was writing, and please don't be offended.